First of all, my truck was in the shop, so I was down at the shop while all the guys were still hauling material. And then after I got my truck out, I went up to the wash manufactured sand and got loaded.
And that particular morning was the day we were going to dump off top of the stockpile because up in the quarry was full. And I went up, drove around the stockpile, checked the berms, made sure everything was the right height. We keep all our berms to the height of the 988. That way we don't have to second guess what truck goes up on this pile and what truck goes down this pile. And that's the largest piece of equipment, that's where the berms are. Adamant about that. Everything looked fine. I didn't see any structural cracks. The repost of the pile looked good. I didn't really see anything that raised an alarm that morning.
I had dumped first, then I came down and around this way and coming by, and I happened to look up and I see Scotty up there, and I saw the banking give.
I'm assuming it was from the first truck it dumped. It took the face away and it just weakened it, I guess. I don't know.
And I just reached for the microphone to tell him but it was too late. He told me later that he had already had it in gear. He knew what was happening.
I saw that the wheels were starting to come down because I always check out of the mirrors in the camera. When I saw that the truck was starting to fall, I reached down and I put it in drive and I went to step on the throttle to get out of it. And when I went to reach for the throttle, all I saw was the sky.
I received a call that there had been an incident at the Hooksett facility that one of our haul trucks had rolled down a wash manufactured sand pile.
And I just watched him come down. He came down, kind of stopped, then he came right over, cab first into the banking.
I've seen some accidents, but not to this magnitude at places I have worked. I've seen articulate trucks, body rolls that are designed to do that, and smaller accidents, but I haven't seen a truck do a 270-degree turn down a pile.
When I pulled up to the pile, I looked, and first thing I said to my guy is, "Oh God, please don't be buried." And I went up and saw Scott's feet actually kicking his way out. So I got out, and at that point in time, Steve Spatafor and Dale Stewart had made their way up to the truck, and I just, second nature, just called 911, explained to them what had happened, and knew that from the amount of distance that he rolled and the position of the truck, I knew we were going to need some assistance of some sort.
And that's the last I saw, and then I saw Steve running up the hill to me. I don't know what happened in between.
There was a probably 2.5 minute, time frame where I got the call and I'd come down and I had gotten out of the loader and I looked at the pile to make sure that it was safe to go up the pile.
I was at the half-inch stone loading a dump trailer and I heard that the truck went over the edge and I stopped what I was doing. I went over there. We both pulled up on the scene at the same time with both 980s. Barricaded to make the area safer. The only thing we saw was a truck nose down in the sand leaning against the sand pile that he came over.
And then we just had cordoned off the site we had 2 loaders and the extra haul truck and a water truck just parked off and basically made a circle around the areas.
We started going to the truck, and I think Billy told us to wait because the truck, we weren't sure how stable it was.
First of all, I got up there, and like any other accident, whether it's on a highway or a back road, you have a lot of spectators. And the first thing I do is I sent Scott Rawlson out to the front of the property, which is the entrance gate, and had him bring in the rescue squad at that point. And then I had Dan McInnes get all our guys together, and I had them all escorted, and they all went to the trailer.
I drove right to the accident site. That site was secure. We had a 988 loader and a haul truck blocking the base of the pile to prevent anyone from coming close to the vehicle that was still nose up in the sand pile.
When I see Scott moving in the truck trying to get out, so I knew he was conscious anyways, but it was scary.
I looked out the window and I saw Steve running up the pile, and he came to me and asked me what he wanted me to do, and I said, well, get me out of here would be a good start.
We took a quick look at it. Jimmy had positioned his loader bucket in the air to stop that truck had it come towards us. He was watching me. He was talking back to me on the FM. I had it on my chest. And I told him, what I was going to do. Scott had, I got to the truck and he had been laying down, and I thought to myself, Scott always wears a seatbelt. You can't get away with not wearing a seatbelt because it's got the orange strap on it.
I've been thinking about it since it happened, and it's 6 weeks now. I do not remember taking that seatbelt. I know the seatbelt was on, but I do not remember taking it off. Then I remember him saying that he took a sweatshirt off to cover me, and Dale was coming up to break the window to try to get me out. And then we realized that I couldn't get out that window. Well, I thought I couldn't get out that window.
Yeah, the door was buried in sand, so you couldn't open it up. And originally we had thought that he had kicked that window out, but obviously that wasn't the case. The window was still intact. After everything had calmed down and we went back to look at the truck, we saw the window was still intact, so he had to have come out that side window magically. We have an emergency situation. My concern is getting him out of the truck. It's not where he's coming out of the truck. And then after we talked about it and we walked up to the truck and the door window was still intact. And I'm like, he came out this side, the door was slammed shut. How did we get him out of that window? But we did. That's the way he had kicked that window out and his ankles were already hanging out of that window. So that's the window he came out of.
So I pulled my legs back and I kicked. What I kicked, I have no idea what it was, but whatever it was, I got out.
And I grabbed his ankles and I just said, wiggle. And he wiggled and I pulled and we got him out.
And he sat down in the sand, and I asked him if he could walk, we get him down off the pile. And he said he really wanted to sit there until EMS showed up. And I said, if you can walk, I'd really like to get you down off the pile because the truck was leaning the direction he was sitting.
And I got out and I ran down. I got down to the truck, down the hill and across over to the service truck that was parked there.
Once we got to safety, I asked him what was wrong, what was hurting, what we wanted to do. Did he want to sit down? Did he want to stand up? And, he told me what he wanted, stand up, and he just said, wrap my arm up, and that's what we did. That's all he wanted for first aid, obviously, and let the fire trucks and ambulance, those guys help him out.
We just had him sitting on the bank. I talked to him, kept on the phone with the 911 operator, and we got him down. By the time we got him off the pile, they'd already had a rescue unit here.
Then Hooksett Fire was there and Hooksett Police, and they scooted me off to the hospital.
911 had been called and the paramedics were on site. They came over and just did a quick evaluation. He seemed okay. They noticed a small laceration on his arm and advised that we should send him to the hospital just for a quick evaluation to make sure he was okay. They took him to the hospital from the site. I was en route and got a call that he was alone, so I called a facility manager and had him diverted to go meet Scott at the hospital when he arrived, so someone was with him so he wasn't alone through the procedure. When I arrived at the accident scene, we had a loader and a rock truck blocking the area to prevent anyone from coming close to the truck that was still nose down in the pile of sand. Parked, got out, spoke with the foreman and the key employees who had secured the site to be brought up to speed of what had happened and what had gone on. We assessed the situation, did a risk assessment think pad, and discussed how we were going to safely upright the truck and get it on its wheels so it could be removed from the pile. After a couple short meetings and assessing and reassessing, we built a pad on an incline, and it was decided that with a pad and a slope, as we pushed the rock truck over, it would safely go over on its side and upright itself. Once we had that plan in place and started constructing the pad, we decided to call MSHA as a courtesy call to let them come over and assess the site while we did our accident investigation. Once we got the truck uprighted, we photographed the sand pile, the slope, and started to interview people and come up with a plan on how we would stop it from ever happening again.
My injuries were 3 broken ribs, broken ankle, and 20 stitches on my left arm, and a pretty serious bump on my forearm. which has been taken away by ultrasound now. But it's still numb, but it's gone.
So we always wear seat belts here at the crusher because it's very common sense. You can see how high the piles are that we dump off. I mean, if you didn't have it on, who knows what happens if you come off. I'm glad Scotty had his on. Who would have known if he didn't have his seatbelt on, what would happen? I think it saved his life.
After the investigation of this accident and just looking at the forces of what had gone on in a 270 roll, I think if Scott had not worn his seatbelt, we would have had a lot graver consequences than we did.
From the amount of rotation that truck did, when we did end to end, he probably would have got tossed around there pretty severely. And at least the seatbelt, it's got the shoulder strap and the waist, and it kept him in the seat. I mean, and he was lucky because he wasn't engulfed, and he was able to kick his way out and got out of the truck. But I'm pretty sure if he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, there would have been a lot more damage to. I mean, it could have been head trauma, not knowing. He would have rolled around inside that cab for the whole time, and I just couldn't imagine being in that position. I don't even want to think about being in that position.
If I didn't have that seatbelt on, I would not be sitting here, I don't think. That's my own personal opinion. The doctor told me the same thing. I mean, people I've talked to that seen the truck said they don't know how that happened. Scott Riley just told me the other day that he said if you didn't have that seatbelt on, you'd have been eating that steering wheel, and I 100% believe him. I mean, it's definitely it's a top priority when you get in that truck is immediately fasten that seatbelt before you do anything. Fasten the seatbelt. That's just the way it's got to be.
Right after the accident and the vehicle was secure, I grabbed my foreman and the key operators, and we had a discussion on what we could put in place immediately to prevent anything like this from ever happening again. The best practice we came up with, we were going to have the haul trucks dump three rows of material deep across the base of the pile that would be pushed up with a loader and maintained until they could not stock any more material in the bottom. And then they would go to the top of the pile and they would short dump 10 feet away, a minimum of 10 feet from the crest of the stockpile, and dump there, and a loader would come by and push the material over once it was full.
We have changed a lot of things here now. We dump way away from the berm, so it'll never happen again. We dump like 10 feet on the other side of that berm, then the loaders come in and dump it over the edge, but it's maybe more cautious, a lot more cautious.
We're more cautious of how we handle the wash sand now. We keep it further back, and I have to push it over the edge myself for the loader.
There's no way I'm going that close to the edge anymore. I mean, I don't think I'll have a problem getting back in the truck, dumping, as long as there's no edge involved.
Sometimes later in the year you get that habit of let's get it done, let's get it done. We got to move that whole pile up here. It's like go, 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 but now we move as the best we can.
It's changed my thought of it only happens somewhere else. I mean, I've been here on this site 23 years, and that's the worst incident I've seen.
It's a terrible thing to see. I mean, he's a good friend of mine. It's just seeing it happen. You know, I got scared, but once I saw him move, I could breathe again.
We were a close-knit group down there. I mean, we get along all right, and it made a lot of people think.
So I think it's really opened up everybody's eyes, and nobody wants to see anyone get hurt. It's just one big family, so.
It makes you think a lot more. I mean, like I said about the seat belts, that's a big thing. But now you can kind of appreciate being here. I mean, it's the first thing I thought of was my grandchildren. That if they would never see their grandfather again, and that would be not good.